Hello.
Namaste and very good morning. At this program, this morning, before this August gathering, the Premchand Fellowship of Sahitya Akademi will be conferred on Tshering Tashi, the noted, eminent scholar and writer from Bhutan. In fact, President Sahitya Akademi was to confer this fellowship on Mr. Tashi, but the President could not make it, unfortunately, on his health grounds. So Secretary Sahitya Akademi will confer this fellowship on Tashi. And the presentation ceremony will be followed by a literary forum at which Mr. Tashi will speak on storytelling, the repository of culture. At the outset, I request Dr. K. Srinivasarao, Secretary Sahitya Akademi, to formally welcome Tshering Tashi by offering Angavastram and Sahitya Akademi publications. I request Secretary to please also welcome His Excellency General Vesto Namgyal, Ambassador of Bhutan. I request now Dr. K. Srinivasarao to please deliver the welcome address as well as read out the citation on Tshering Tashi.
Thank you. Good morning to all of you. Mr. Tshering Tashi ji, eminent scholar and writer from Bhutan, His Excellency General Vesto Namgyal, Ambassador of Bhutan to India, Mr. Malashila, Nanda Bukleji, Devik Ramesh, and all the scholars assembled here and friends. I am glad to welcome all of you for this ceremony to present Premchand Fellowship to Sri Tshering Tashi. Premchand Fellowship is presented to scholars and writers from SAARC countries other than India who have undertaken serious research into culture and literature on the Indian subcontinent and made substantial contribution to the enrichment of culture. This fellowship was instituted in 2005 and was named after Premchand as part of celebration to commemorate 125th birth anniversary of Premchand. Sri Tshering Tashi has made remarkable efforts to chronicle and document the development of Bhutan, developed a unique style of storytelling to provide insights of historical background reflected in conflicts and dilemmas in society, encouraging holistic views of current affairs. Stories and storytelling have been part of humanity since time immemorial, and there has been no community that ever existed without stories. Stories are one way of preserving culture and also reflect culture of the given time. Premchand is one writer who strengthened storytelling tradition in the Indian subcontinent before Indian independence, along with many others. Premchand's stories were rooted in local settings and culture, but they were all universal at core and hence appealed to one and all irrespective of nationality, and they continue to inspire people till date. Bhutan has had a vibrant storytelling tradition for a very long time, and it is this tradition that reinforced the cultural fabric of the society from the times when there was no writing system. It has continued till date. From this angle, Sri Tshering Tashi's efforts to preserve and propagate Bhutan's culture through stories and also chronicling them. It is easier said than done. Sri Tshering Tashi narrates the stories and in the process also pass on the history through these stories to the posterity. He is not a mere chronicler or storyteller, but an outstanding scholar of cultures and social structures. Sri Tshering Tashi is the 12th recipient of Premchand Fellowship and the first scholar from Bhutan to receive it, though it is very much. And after the fellowship presentation ceremony, as my colleague has already mentioned, Mr. Tashi will also take us on a journey through his talk on storytelling, the repository of culture. With these few words, once again I welcome Tashi and also His Excellency and all the citation that we have prepared on this occasion. Sri Tshering Tashi, on whom Sahitya Akademi is conferring its Premchand Fellowship today, is a postgraduate in financial management from Royal Institute of Management, Thimphu, in Bhutan, and a BCom honors graduate from Sri Ram College of Commerce, Delhi University. He has 9 publications to his credit, which include Stories on the Wall in 2019, Bhutan National Awards, Royal Orders and Decorations in 2018, Tashi Gumam, a National Treasure on Bhutan in 2016, 15 Gun Salutes, British Reports on Bhutan from 1905 to 1945, published in 2015, Myth and Memory, Untold Stories of Bhutan, 2013, Kongjin Hugien Dorji, the King's Aide and Diplomat par excellence in 2013, Bold Bhutan Beacons from Jesuits to Jet Setter in 2009, co-authored with Tim Fisher, The Bodhisattva King 2008, co-authored with Thierry Mathai, and Mysteries of the Raven Chrome, The Inner, Outer and Secret Coronations 2008. He has edited the volumes of 100 Years of Development 2014 and made contribution to the Medical History of Bhutan, Chronicle of Health and Disease from Bone Times to Today in 2012. Sri Tshering Tashi has worked as a collaborator on the team of the Royal History of Sikkim, a chronicle of the House of Namgyal in 2021, Tashi Dorji, Her Life and Legacy in 2017, which was published by Her Majesty the Royal Grandmother, the Heart of Sacred Kingdom, Her Majesty the Royal Grandmother Ashi Kesang Chodeyan Wangchup, A Lifetime in the Service to the People and Kingdom of Bhutan 2017, and Tashi Gumam, A National Treasure of Bhutan 2016. Sri Tashi has been regularly contributing literary blogs on the history and culture of Bhutan to the www.quyenselonline.com. Besides representing Her Majesty Royal Grandmother of Bhutan in the Royal Gunakha Dajong Rewriting Project in 2021, he has served as a member of the Royal COVID Task Force and also in the Secretariat of Her Majesty the Royal Grandmother. He has been the Director of Bhutan Ecos Literary Festival, a member of the Executive Committee of Tariana Foundation, and the Director of Mountain Ecos Literary Festival from 2016 to 2019. He led an exhibition titled Tashi Goma, a National Treasure of Bhutan, served as a Board Director of Royal Society of Protection of Nature from 2010 to 2015, and as Lieutenant in Royal Bhutan Army in 2003. Sri Tshering Tashi was honored with the Group Yugir Medal from His Majesty the 4th King of Bhutan on 17 December 2004 for participating as a militia officer in the 2003 flesh-out military operations. Sri Tashi has served as a consultant in many projects within Bhutan and outside, which includes native speaker consultant for Tokyo University of Foreign Studies from 2012 to 13, documenting endangered language conducted by ELAR, SOAs and TUFAs and Tourism Council of Bhutan training guides. He also served as speaker of Jaipur Literature Festival for the year 2015 and 2023 and speaker of Mountain Ecos Literary Festival Sri Tashi has extensively researched on social, cultural, political and religious history of Bhutan and contributed his insights into the history of Bhutan for the last 19 years. He has developed a unique style of storytelling in conflicts and dilemmas in society, encouraging holistic views of current affairs. Sahitya Akademi takes immense pride in bestowing its Premchand Fellowship on Sri Tshering Tashi.
Many thanks, sir. I request now, Secretary, please confer the Premchand Fellowship of Sahitya Akademi on Tshering Tashi. I now invite Sri Tshering Tashi to share his views.
Thank you, Mr. K.S. Rao. I would like to start the talk with a riddle. The one who unlocks it will not receive a certificate of genius, but a small souvenir from the town. So the riddle has three parts. The first part is the first part of the riddle is where the sun rises. The second part is where power is money, and the last part of the riddle is with villains in the horizon. So, which country and why?
Repeat the question, the sound of that.
So, the riddle has three parts.
You want to move to this one? Maybe you change seats.
Yeah.
You go to that side.
No.
That one was one. Next one.
So, the riddle has three parts. The first part of the riddle is where the sun rises. The second part of the riddle is where money is power, and the third last part of the riddle is with villains in the horizons. Which country and why?
I think you must.
I'm not good at it.
Where the sun, S-O-N, where the sun rises. So here's the little souvenir to the person who unlocks the riddle.
Yes, sir.
Bhutan.
Yes. And why now?
Because the wise divinity has a wise father and a wise king.
Yes. So I think Rabindra is closest to request.
No, but there was another person who also.
Anybody in the room?
She should also get it. She should get the prize.
So can you request Ambassador to go with that?
Please, you take it. No, come on, you take it. Because I was inside in the Bhutan.
Yeah, you have it inside.
Inside. It would be better. Now you know I'm doing that.
So for the benefit of the general audience, So Bhutan has been blessed with selfless and wise leaders. In 2006, our fourth king abdicated in favor of his 26-year-old son. At that time of abdication, the fourth king was only 51 years old. After 34 years, and at the peak of his career, he chose to step down. Imagine any leader today doing this. Our fifth king is now 39 years old. In the last 17 years, he has worked tirelessly and selflessly. For his kindness and wisdom, he has earned the name the People's King. So the sun rises. Bhutan has 567 glacial lakes. Unfortunately, 17 has been identified as potentially dangerous. The water from these pristine lakes turn the turbine of 8 of our hydropower projects. Together, they produce over 1600 megawatts. 70% of the excess power is exported to India, making it a major source of income for Bhutan. The revenue makes up 17% of our GDP and 26% of the government revenue. So power is money. The last part of the riddle, we are sandwiched between the two of the world's most populous nations. To the south we have India, to the north we have China. Both have a population over a billion, so with billions in the horizons. So Kuzu Zango and Namaskar. हम दिल्ली में पढ़ाई किया, so हम दिल्ली वाले जैसे हैं. I spent the formative years of my life in the city of Tshering. It's still hard to tell whether it has been a good or a bad for me, but I'm leaning more towards good. Over the last 2 decades, I have been a regular visitor to the city. Some say that the people are cold, but people I have crossed paths are not so. To be honest, some can be too direct. Anyway, I have many good friends in the city, so Delhi is like my second home, and recently IIC has become my new house. So anyone in the room heard of the 84 Arhats? Anyone heard about it? Have you heard? Okay. So these were remarkable Indian saints from diverse backgrounds who helped spread Buddhism in their own little way. In Bhutan, they have rock star status. Today, I would like to share the story of one such Arhat. Chotap Sarha was one of the greatest Buddhist professors that taught in a Nalanda university. One day, on his walk, he encounters a pretty young girl and strikes a conversation. To impress the girl, the professor explains the concept of emptiness. The girl has no clue, nor is interested in the deep Buddhist philosophy, but tolerates him as she is looking for a client. The 15-year-old girl patiently waits for the professor to complete his explanation and then questions him, "Do you know what you're talking about, or are you simply parroting?" The professor is shocked. This foments a spiritual crisis in him. The professor becomes infatuated with this young man. Against the wishes of his colleagues, he decides to marry her. To express their displeasure, the university disrobes his professor mantle. Left with no choice, the 8th century professor becomes an arrowsmith, by which name he is popularly known and depicted. After a few months of romancing and making arrows, one morning, Sahara asks his wife to cook him a radish curry. But before she finishes cooking, the man decides to go into a long retreat. After 12 years, he breaks the retreat, and the first question he asks his wife is, "Have you finished cooking my radish curry?" The young wife looks at the learned husband and chides him, You have wasted 12 years of your life." He goes right back into retreat. This time he is more mindful and comes out of it without anything on his mind. Eventually he attains enlightenment and is considered one of the 84 Mahasiddhas in the Buddhist world. All the distinguished guests, friends, family who have gathered here today are no strangers to Bhutan. While visiting Bhutan, has anyone been to the Dumsik Dhawan in Paro? Have you been to the monastery is on the way to the Paro zone. It stands out because of its cylindrical shape and the 12 large wooden pillars in it. Not to mention the founder of the monastery, the 15th century Tibetan hermit called Thangthang Gyalpo, who is considered the Leonardo da Vinci of the Himalayas. What many don't notice is that inside the monastery there are some of these most amazing murals. One panel has the story of the 84 Arhats, including Saharas. Like the Tshering monastery, we have over 2,000 monasteries that dot the hills of our country. Each of these walls are filled with murals like these. Many of the monasteries also have hundreds of scriptures that is filled with Dharma stories which have helped enrich the Buddhist culture. This is not a test, and no prizes for it. Has anyone read the book Words of My Perfect Teacher? Mother, have you read? Okay. I'm sure our investors read. Yes. So there are very few who remember it by heart. I tried but failed miserably, as the book has 457 pages. It is one of the most read Buddhist books. Reading it is effortlessly because the author, who is an accomplished Buddhist master, fills the book with stories and anecdotes. If you want to ferment or recover from a spiritual crisis, then this book would be for you. Fascinated by the content, some scholars use it as a reference, and it is widely quoted. In Bhutan, many of our monks from a young age are made to memorize the whole book. I met one such monk. He said it took him months and a few slaps from his teacher to remember the whole text by heart. At that time, he didn't understand the value nor the use of it, but said it's now worth it. He travels the world giving lectures in the Buddhist circuit, while others scramble to the library. All he has to do is talk. So the lesson of the story is it's okay to memorize 457 pages of a book. As my topic today is storytelling, repository of culture, I will not be doing justice if I do not share the story of the Tashi Gomang. Tashi in Dzongkha means auspicious. Gomang means many doors. Like the Rajasthani kawats, the Tashi Gomangs are miniature portable altars. It is one of our national secret treasures and heritage. Some experts think of the world also. The people who carry these altars are known as Lammaneps, or the traveling monks. The Lammaneps are professional storytellers. Over decades, I've met many of them. I can tell you one thing with great certainty, that not even 100 GB of external hard drive is sufficient to store their stories. While the tradition of traveling storytellers is common in the Himalayas and others like in Rajasthan, the tradition of Tashi Gomang is unique to Bhutan. Every year after the harvest, the traveling monks carry the Tashi Gomang on the back and travel from one village to the other. Once they reach the village, the messenger of that village blows a conch, announcing the arrival of the traveling monk. That evening, the whole village will congregate in the house of either the messenger or in the community monastery. The monk will slowly open the altar and then recite stories for hours. Some of the traveling monks are popular with the women folk, as they also bring gossips. At the end of the story session, the villagers will offer freshly harvested grains which will be used to sustain the Lammanet. In 2005, there were only 2 traveling monks left. Both were over 75 years. With timely royal intervention and support from the French ambassador to India, young monks were trained to carry on this important culture of storytelling. Professor David Park is one of the world's authorities on frescoes. He used to teach at the Courtauld Institute of Art in London. So let's just say he's a busy man. One day he gets a SOS call from Bhutan informing him of the possibilities of tearing down the 400-year-old monastery. Immediately, he stops everything, catches the first flight to Bhutan, and inspects the murals of the Tonggu monastery. Unlike other murals, the ones in Tonggu are painted directly on the mud walls. The professor said that the paintings were the most important, beautiful, sacred, and unique in the world. He described the paintings of Tonggu as Michelangelo's of Asia. He pointed out that a handful of such paintings exist in the world. He said that Tonggu paintings are of tremendous importance, not only to Bhutan, but to the world because of this religious significance, subject matter, art technique, and the era in which it was painted, and the stories reflecting Bhutanese rich culture. The professor confessed that given the choice, he would prefer the Tonggu paintings over Michelangelo's. As today is a happy occasion, I am happy to report that the Tonggu zone has been carefully restored to its former glory. The consecration ceremony took place 3 days ago. All the 700 square feet of frescoes in it have been saved. They were detached using traditional techniques and now reintegrated back in the monastery. In the history of art conservation, this is the first. The Tangu story is a demonstration of Bhutan's commitment to the preservation of our culture. I have 2 more short stories before I wind up the session. Bhutan's dear friend, Namateji, knows how to spice the Jaipur Literary Festival. After all, it's the world's largest festival. So she invites or tries to invite the Bhutanese every year. Early this year, I landed up at JLF. Like many writers or storytellers, I used the occasion to get feelers for the next book or to test my stories. So I spoke about Nana Sahib's time in Bhutan. Surprisingly, very few had heard about the story. Relieved that my story didn't create controversy or was subject to any hard questions, I slipped into my hotel room to relax. Little did I realize, for the next 30 minutes, I was the most wanted man in Jaipur. Our another good friend, Suhasini, sent me a message on the phone saying that the former Indian FS Foreign Secretary was looking for me. Now that got me worried. That night at the dinner, I was cornered. I had to answer barrage of questions of the Nana Sahib, but was happy to do so. The Pune Walas were civilized and decent. Next minute, we became best friends, and the meeting was most fruitful. Few months later, the most prominent Marathi writer, Dr. Uday Kulkarni from Pune, and a descendant of Nana Sahib, visited Bhutan. Together, we ventured to central Bhutan and explored the possibilities of Nana Sahib living in Bhutan. As you all know, Nana Sahib led the Sepoy Mutiny of 1857. The British outlawed him and put a bounty on his head. But to the Indians, he's a symbol of India's struggle for national liberation that ultimately led to independence less than a century later. To the Bhutanese, Nana Sahib was a man of prophecy whose fate was woven with ours. In 1859, he escaped to Nepal. The Nepalese ruler was not the nicest person. He confined him in a mosquito-infested terrace, took away his junior queen, and slowly palmed all of the Peshwa's valuables, including the now Lahu necklace. Fed up with his life in Nepal, Nana Sahib escaped to Bhutan. While details remain sketchy, oral stories convincingly tell of his arrival in Bhutan. Our elders affectionately recount tales of how the father of our first king provided him safe refuge. In turn, he helped the Bhutanese ruler fight the British in 1864. Nana Sahib is popularly known in Bhutan as Patsa Raja. The ancient zone of Tomsa in central Bhutan, where Patsa Raja stayed, has a room called the Patsa Raja's Senchu, or the Patsa Raja's room. This is preserved even to this day. The room is one of the 2 in the zone with an attached bathroom. After visiting Bhutan, Dr. Kulkarni and his descendant Noel is convinced that Nana Sahib's missing years were happily spent in Bhutan. But for how long still remains a mystery. And guess what? Next year is the 200th birth anniversary of Nana Sahib. Before I end, I would like to share the last story. In 1977, India's late Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee visited Bhutan. Inspired by the country's natural beauty, overwhelmed by the warmth and moved by the Bhutanese hospitality, he composed the most beautiful story. To the surprise of many who had gathered for a dinner in the India House in Thimphu, Vajpayee ji burst into a poem. Back then, he was the foreign minister. In his poem, he generously praised Bhutan, showered his affection on the people, and complimented our fourth king on his wise leadership. He described Bhutan as the land of the gods, and the Bhutanese as hardworking and industrious. He described how the Bhutanese men excelled at archery, and the women carried themselves with grace. He said freedom to the Bhutanese was dearer than life, and pride throbs in the heart of every child. The poem praised the monarch's wise leadership and benevolence and talked about how the subject revered the youthful king. The night of the dinner in India House in Thimphu was a cold day. When one of his ministers complained about the temperature, Vajpayee ji retorted, "Yes, it is cold, but the warmth of friendship and hospitality makes the cold bearable." Bhutan is still that kingdom of gods. poets and writers, both Bhutanese and visitors, can still find inspiration. We are still a country filled with good archers, graceful women who have evolved to be stronger than our archers. Our children's hearts still throb with pride. We are one of the last countries in the world with fairy tale queens and compassionate and selfless kings. Since I started my talk with the riddle, and after sharing a few stories, it would be appropriate for me to end it with a thought for all of you to carry, which is the storytelling repository of culture. I am no poet like Vajpayeeji. I am not in Bhutan, so cannot compose a poem about the warmth I received during the last few days in India and today's exceptional warm reception. On behalf of all the writers of Bhutan and all of the friends and distinguished guests who have taken the trouble to come here today, I thank Sahitya Akademi for granting me the Premchand Fellowship and welcoming me to the Sahitya Akademi family. Katinchi and Dhanyawad.
Thank you, Mr. Tashi, for your warm speech. It was wonderful to know about Bhutan and also that Delhi is your second home. Thanks a lot. The presentation ceremony ends here. I thank Mr. Tshering Tashi and also Divik Rameshji, Malashri Lalji, Amita Gokhleji, Pranav Pundaji was there, and also special thanks to His Excellency General Wetstock Namgyal and the Senator of Bhutan for making it possible to be with us. Thanks a lot. We will keep on discussing, but over a cup of tea. Thank you. And in the Rabindra lawns, our Pustakayan fair is going on. I request you all to please visit Pustakayan as well. Thank you.